Welcome, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jason Williams, the founder of Main Street Ventures, a first of its kind pre-IPO investment advisory service. We focus on the Regulation CF and Regulation A plus markets. And with me today, I have the president and founder of one of our model portfolio investments, CityFreighter. Michael Schoening is here to tell us a little bit about the progress that the company's made, his plans for the future, and a special funding round that he'd like to give us the opportunity to participate in. So, Michael, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate you being here.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me, Jason.
Of course, it's my pleasure. And I really appreciate Michael's time because this is not the first time that we've tried to record this interview. My technology skills are apparently a little bit lacking. I'm pretty good with a laptop, but apparently I'm not very good at the video production, in the video production world. So we've gotten a lot of practice on this, and you guys are going to get the very best interview that we could possibly muster because we've had several rehearsals. We'll call them rehearsals. So again, Michael, thank you so much for your time and for all the extra time that you've put into making this. I can tell, just by that, how committed you are to the investors in this company. So thanks a lot for that. But anyway, now that I've admitted my shortcomings, let's actually get into the interview. So when we first invested in CityFreighter, the company had proven its concept. It was going after the addressing the class 3 truck market with an electric vehicle, and the money that we helped raise it went to building the beta model of their vehicle, which was unveiled at the ACT Expo in Long Beach, California, back in 2020. I had the of being present to see it unveiled, and it really just blew me away, honestly, what Michael and his team were able to do with the small amount of funding that they had in the small amount of time that they did it. And everybody else at the expo that I saw checking out the truck seemed to really share my sentiment that they were really impressed with the vehicle. They were impressed with the progress. They had thought that that Michael and his team's goals were a little bit too ambitious, I think was the word that they used, and that they weren't going to be able to complete it. So everybody was really surprised and pleasantly surprised, with what they had been able to accomplish. And so now Michael and the CityFreighter team are ready to take that next step to really get the trucks towards mass production, towards production at scale, and really be able to get those volumes up. But in order to do that, they need to raise a little bit of funding to get over that next hump that really gets them there. And because they felt so indebted to the WeFunder and the Main Street Ventures community for helping them raise that funding that got them over that first hump to the beta model, they wanted to give the opportunity to invest in a discounted round. So today we're going to talk about that round a little bit. We're going to talk about what the money from that round will help CityFreighter accomplish. And then we're going to talk about the future of CityFreighter and what's going to happen after those accomplishments, after those milestones are met. So, Michael, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you would like to accomplish with the funding that you're raising right now.
Yeah, let's go back to the milestone definition. So there are two very important milestones. The initial milestones, and you mentioned that before, that we raised money here on the WeFunder community. We used for manufacture the beta version, which we showed on the ACT show in Long Beach. And that was done on time, and we used the beta for multiple customer presentations as well. It went to Amsterdam, it went to Paris, it went in some areas in the US as well. And so since then, we have achieved much more on the way to serial production. We recently signed an LOI with a European well-known truck manufacturer. We are in proceedings, final talks with a similar structured partner for the US market, for the US market entry. And the next big milestone we are working on right now is to optimize the design and to build gamma vehicles. And they will be used for validation and homologation purposes. This is a very critical phase in automotive development for mass production, and that's going to take a couple of months time, especially also for the validation. And that's not just a simple get into the vehicle, try if the brake works or not. So it's a lot of processing.
It's a little bit more complicated than just a test drive.
Yeah, it definitely is. For example, for the brake development, we're working with Bosch in Germany at the moment. So it's a process of about 12, 13 months. They do a lot of overall testing. They do testing on different surfaces. And then you have to do it again and again, and they do a winter test. The vehicle will be brought to Sweden, for example, to do icy, let's say, tests on icy roads and all that. And in between, it needs to be adjusted, and then you do the final preparation, and then the final testing. And then if everything goes well in the end, not only brake testing, it's everywhere. It's also with the lights, it's with all the vehicle functions. Then in the end you will get the certification, and you can go into mass production. But that's a long way ahead.
Gotcha, but definitely a very important step there. So since once you get the validation, there's really nothing stopping you from going to mass production and producing these vehicles at scale and really just taking the company international. I
Yeah,
mean, global, really.
yeah, yeah,
So that's definitely something that's really important. So this funding round will help you raise the money to build those gamma vehicles, and then get those gamma vehicles out there for the validation.
yeah.
And it'll also give you, more. Obviously, you've had the beta model to show potential customers and potential partners, and that's gotten people really excited. But also gives you a couple of more vehicles that you can get in front of people who are going to want to use them in the future.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, we're doing the development stage right now with relatively low dollar numbers or dollar amounts, but we would definitely also need larger amounts once we go into production. But that's completely away from typical, let's say, a couple $100 million or so. But the main point is to get to the, let's say, the goal is that we have in 2024, let's say, certification and homologation on the US side and on the European side, and then that we are able, it enables us to go into production. That's out of, you can't figure the value right now. It gives us a lot of let's say, leverage to get the investment for that. We might need for estimate for production, let's say, financing about 100 150 million dollars, something like this. But that is achievable at that time, because then we would have that value. And coming back from the funding perspective, is it was really a tough year last year in terms of getting funding. There were a lot of so-called spec companies which
Mhm.
went public was crazy valuations, and they went down big, and left really investors confused, and that also had influence on our side. And so we are staying to the principle. We are creating value step by step. We are not saying, hey, we are a $1 billion company, multi-billion-dollar company. We will be one day, hopefully, but let's do it step by step. Create the value and show investors.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
the right way to go.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely convinced that you guys can get there, and I think that focus is going to be a big part of it. That you've always kept the big picture in mind, but you've always also been focused on that next step that's going to get you to that big picture. As opposed to these companies like the ones that you mentioned that went public through SPACs. A lot of them sort of they raised funds for the big picture, as opposed to focusing on what that next step is that they needed to take to get, and you guys have been taking this step by step approach, and that's really, really, played well to I think your advantage, in that you've been able to accomplish so much more than these other companies did, and you accomplished it with so much less and in such a shorter period of time as well. So I think that focus, that step by step approach, while also keeping that big picture, that end goal in mind, has really worked out well for you, and well
Yeah,
for us as investors too.
yeah. I mean, we I remember in after the ACT show, we visited a company which at that point just went public. Was They raised $600 million at a $2.5 billion valuation. We visited them, talked to them for 2 hours, and after that meeting, we were standing outside the building, and we're asking ourselves, what do they really have? What is really worth $2.5 billion? And you
Hmm.
could see right now the stock at that time was at $10. Now it's at 50 cents. So the only way to move forward that way, how we have done it, let's say, with limited resources, is really based on our initial model of creating valuable collaboration. So we don't see the let's say we don't see the need to invest into resources and buy into let's say buy into building up our fixed cost. We want to really invest into creating the vehicle because we want to get the vehicle to the market. And so we are working with the engineering resources, the departments of our suppliers, of our collaboration partners. And we had this meeting was one of the largest ones in Europe, and we were talking about thermal management, and we could see after 2 hours, how much knowledge they have, and why should we go and build up that same resources? It's going to take us time. It's going to take us money. It's much quicker if we're going to go to them and say, okay, let's see what you have right now out of the shelf. How can we implement this intelligently into the vehicle, and that's possible, and they're all open for that. And even we're having talks with Volkswagen, for example, right now, where we're talking about a certain part they're using in their vehicles, which we could use also in our vehicles, which really would reduce development times, and cost, and they are open to license it to us, and so this is the way we are going in general, and it really proved that's the right direction to go.
Yep, that was something that I really liked about the company when we first were introduced to you back in 2019, early 2020. Was that plan to sort of instead of trying to reinvent all of these things that already existed that somebody else had already taken the time to really fine tune. You were looking for ways to sort of incorporate existing technology and existing equipment into a vehicle that you could then basically build quickly, easily, and efficiently, and get to market at a reasonable price. And that's definitely I think that really sets you apart from other EV manufacturers for sure. The focus on that end result of having an efficient and affordable EV truck option.
Yeah, and also different. We recognized in very early stages what the need will be for the last mile, or let's say call it urban logistics delivery, or let's say delivery vehicles, because this is different from standard OEMs, and we always get asked, okay, why should we invest? Because OEMs could do the same thing. They might be able to do the same thing, but they don't do, because their structure is completely built up on a different legacy of they're building up on their existing chassis, on their existing vehicles, and they're going to create vehicles like the Sprinters or the Dodge Ram or whatever for let's say broader markets where it's almost it's a compromise, and we have recognized that the market is going to need a low floor vehicle. It needs a vehicle developed from scratch as an EV. That was a big point at that time, because at that time in the US there were a lot of companies going into conversion of vehicles, because there was also the Volkswagen money available, a lot of grants and all that stuff, but that was never a long-term business case for us. And it proves right now that we're on the right track. So when we did the vehicle, initially we were focusing on delivery, and then we put it on the scale after the whole truck was done. And when we looked at the 2,500 kilograms, 2.5 tons, and said, wow, we met our goals. First of all, we met our goals to create best-in-class cargo space, but now we can also add, let's say, offer with this very compact vehicle, which is a combination between a box truck and a cargo van, very compact, also a high payload capacity. And now we talked last year as well about, let's say, with different parties. There's a large manufacturer in the US which wants to build shuttle buses on it because it's low floor. It's ideally for shuttle bus 12 to 14 people. You can avoid probably putting in a lift system for handicapped people, because you can just work with a ramp, and there's a lot of advantages here. And then more and more we recognized, hey, there's really a growing need right now for an electrified chassis. And it was really confirmed last week when I visited the work truck show in Indianapolis. And so our vision right now is to establish this as a new chassis for upfitters, bodybuilders, special purpose vehicle manufacturers. The market currently is dominated by companies, like I said before, who convert combustion engine vehicles into EVs, and this will change dramatically, because first, supply will be limited in the future. Ford already has announced it, and Ford is one of the companies who has supplied in the past, always chassis like the F350 or the F4 for 450 into the market. And they have announced that that supply is limited in the future, and there are new regulations because everybody's now talking about OTA, over the air update. There are new regulations coming, functional safety, cybersecurity. So actually, the OEMs, they will limit the access to the CAN bus systems of the vehicles. So, and we could see that there's really there's going to be increasing demand for electrified chassis in the future. And honestly, I don't see anything available right now at the moment.
Right, there's really not much out there. People are, like you said, modifying chassis from internal combustion engine vehicles, and they're literally, as soon as they get the chassis, they have to start making modifications to them. So that adds time and cost to their process. Having an electrified cab chassis that's designed from scratch to be an electric vehicle, I think that that would be a huge value add for the industry. And you're right, I really don't think there's anything out there. That would basically, you would be setting the industry standard by having that.
Yeah, and besides doing the next step and developing further, so we are really building up on our vision, and we are right now trying to build a kind of consortium. It was like I said, with different companies like the U.S. contract manufacturer, the European contract manufacturer, because we are not naive. We cannot enter two markets simultaneously at the same time, just as CityFreighter company. So the only way is really collaboration, and together you're going to be strong, and that's a right way to go. And we are right now in another project with a large RV manufacturer from Europe, and that really proves that we are on the right direction, because they cannot use existing, even electric chassis, what are available on the market. So now we're talking also to another company which has an automatic line, and we can see the vision. How can we increase the volume? Because if we can increase the volume, the prices will go down. So exactly. we have, let's say, for example, with the possible US partners, we having some workshops, and we were looking into, okay, how can we harmonize the parts so that we can have the same parts on the US side assembled, or let's say produced in the US, but also parts on the European side, because if the volume, like I said, the volume goes up, we have possibilities. And then we are looking into, you know what, if we're going to standardize this chassis, and we're going to start with class 3, there might be even possibilities to go into class 4 and class 5. And if we keep it the way it is right now, modular and customizable, there might be even a possibility right now, and we're talking to those companies who have the possibility to put the driver's cab on an automatic line. That would change the whole scenario a lot, because it gives us much different options for the future. So it's really getting really excited right now.
That does sound really exciting. It does. So that's that's then the future after the gamma vehicles, after getting the validation and the certifications from the various highway safety administrations around the world, is taking it to manufacturing and getting that manufacturing to scale, and then becoming really an industry standard, supplying cab chassis. But if people want to buy a whole delivery truck, by selling the whole truck, but really not limiting yourself just to delivery vehicles, really allowing yourself that blue sky to expand out into.
Yeah, and there's a demand, and the demand is growing, but we need to be also quick. So time to market is critical. So again, this is there's no way right now, let's say, spend another 5 years on building up resources, and let's get it done with partners. And we have we have a box right now which is full of let's call it Lego stones, with valuable content. So we know exactly how to execute the next step. And for example, we had a meeting 2 days ago with our software partner. Software is becoming very important for automotive development in the future as well. With our software partner for the HMI system, the user interface. And we were discussing the vehicle architecture, how we're going to standardize it, but keeping all in what is needed in the future. So we will be able with that partner to integrate a system which is looking like what you have in a Tesla these days. Over the air update, remote control, all that stuff, but at a different price point. Well, basically the same one. Not all. I mean, it would have cost billions of dollars, but it definitely creates the needed standard for the commercial vehicle. And one thing also, what you need to keep in mind is first of all, in last mile delivery, 200 to 250 times the driver is getting in and out of the vehicle. That's a completely different story than let's say a standard vehicle. And the next thing is, people are complaining, that the industry is complaining about driver shortage. So of course you can see, let's say, look at a couple of vehicles, especially for last mile. Again, 250 times in and out, and sometimes they need to climb and you need to move there, and there's no space and all that stuff. So why? That was the idea from the very beginning. Give them an efficient workspace where they're really happy to get in and out. We have the clearance, and we adopted. I think we were the first ones. We adopted the center display, which was introduced by Tesla in the Model 3. When I saw it, I said, "Hey, this is much more efficient. It avoids getting all the switches left and right and all that stuff. Let's get the driver concentrate on the operation." So we think that the driver must be happy to drive our vehicle, and then there will be a lot of possibilities.
It's so hard to find drivers if they actually enjoy what they're doing.
Yeah, it's not a general rule, but there definitely it is one reason, and make it really efficient, but you understand, and we did tests. We built let's say a mock-up was out of wood to really test about, okay, what difference would it make if you get in and if you get out, let's say, and there's a 4-inch difference in height, and I can tell you it's a lot. It's the same thing like why we did the low floor. Why do we have only 500 millimeters height instead of others which have 700 or 800 millimeters? And I can tell you 10 centimeters or 4 inches is a huge difference. If you have to do that a couple of times or multiple times a day. It's the same thing like start-stop button. What we had a discussion with our guys here in the very beginning, and then they came to me and said, "Oh, we need a start-stop button." I said, "No, we don't need a start-stop button." "Yes, we need." I said, "Why?" "Because everybody has it." I say, "Okay, my Tesla doesn't have it. So if Tesla doesn't have it, why should we have this on a commercial vehicle?" Because again, 250 times in and out, 250 times pushing the button, 250 times pushing the button off and on. It takes some time to let's say restart the vehicle, and that counts towards total cost of ownership. And we could see that, especially on let's say growing fleet on electric vehicles, every square inch has an issue. Let's say have importance in terms of total cost of ownership.
Oh, and you've always been very customer focused, focused on the people who are going to be driving it, but also focused on the people who are going to be owning it, knowing that sometimes those aren't the same people. The fleet operators aren't necessarily always the fleet owners, but really focusing on, that total cost of ownership and just the ease of operating it, and I think that that's really important. You have to design a vehicle that the driver wants to drive. Otherwise the drivers are gonna, we'll say, I use the word revolt. The drivers are going to revolt, and they're not going to want to drive the cars. They're not going to want to drive for the company who has the vehicles that aren't comfortable to be driven, that aren't efficient to be driven.
Yeah, a vehicle designed for the driver and for the needs of the company. And I remember when we did the proof of concept, we were working with we bought some parts from a company in Germany. We were doing at that time prototyping for Volkswagen. And then they came to me and said, "Look, Mr. Schöning, we like the concept." And so, okay, why do you like the concept? Yeah, because Volkswagen, the last 25, 30 years, they dictated somehow what the customer needs to buy. And this is completely changing. Now you're looking into the needs of the customer. You're asking the customer, what do you need? And how are you gonna serve that need? You need to serve it because every customer has a different infrastructure. DHL, for example, has a different infrastructure than UPS or so. And the only way how to serve it in the right way, that you have a modular concept which where you can customize it also in a certain way, within limits, of course,
Mhm.
and so that's the reason why we went that way.
Very cool, very cool. I like it. I think that's going to be really helpful for the company, in the long run there. And so, is there anything else other than the cab chassis that you've seen interest in out there as you've been talking to partners or potential customers that you feel like we should discuss today?
I think you are referring to the mobile hub, right?
I definitely am. That's
We,
something that when we first invested, I saw in one of the videos on the WeFunder page. And I just thought that, the applications for that were just so varied and so great. And I thought that it was just such a cool idea. I was surprised that nobody else had come up with it yet. I'd really like to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so this is our intelligent mobile hub, which is actually a removable box for temporary storage for package distribution or vending or other use cases. And we put it a little bit away in the very beginning. We had these discussions also with a smaller investor about focusing on the vehicle first, and we said, yeah, that's it's probably right. Let's do that. We need to focus. We need to move forward step by step. And in between, we have this manager for logistics from the University in San Diego. He is really behind me for 2 years now and said, Michael, we are really need this because our principals don't want to have vehicles running around on our campus anymore. We got 35,000 people there. We already do the package distribution for Amazon and others. And the ideal thing is we can serve it with one vehicle, multiple hubs. We could put it on around the campus, and the students can distribute the packages. But we put it away to focus. But what's happening right now, because more and more cities are closing their city centers to larger trucks. There's an ongoing demand right now, and I can tell you, we were in a meeting with two potential customers in Paris a couple of weeks ago. And by the way, Paris, it looks like Paris has become our first major city where we will see a lot of CF1s in the future. So the first meeting in the morning was, second sentence was like, oh, Michael, we need your mobile hub. So okay. Next meeting in the afternoon was a larger French package distributor. Second or third sentence, by the way, Michael, we need your mobile hub. So I looked at my CTO and said, okay, mobile hub. Okay, let's do it. And the next day, I got a call from my friend who is running a logistics company, transport company in New Jersey, serving the New York market, and said, look, Michael, I've seen that video. I've never seen that video before of the mobile hub. And I showed it to some senior guys from Amazon, and they really liked it. That's a cool thing. So then we said, okay, let's move forward, and we are building right now a full-scale demo unit with an integrated omnidirectional drive. So that's really cool, because you unload the box at the location, and you know how you're gonna move it into, let's say, 50 yards, 70 yards, or in the parking spot, without a crane, all that stuff, because sometimes you need to move things in a different direction. So
Mhm.
the cool thing, it's gonna have an omnidirectional drive. It's gonna move in every direction, and we're gonna show that probably in about 3 months time. It's a really cool thing. But also, we're discussing right now how we can get this move forward in terms of production, because we really do not want to lose focus on our vehicles. So we're talking right now with potential partners to get this going, and for further development. But I can tell you, when we have this full scale box ready, you guys will see it first here, and it's gonna be really cool.
Excellent. I've seen videos of the scale model, and it looks really cool. It looks really neat, and it looks really functional. It just it makes sense. I'm not surprised that your customers want it. I'm not surprised that people are excited about it. It just, especially with what you mentioned with city centers, restricting the access to large trucks. Cities like New York here in the States already do that with the big semi trucks, the 18 wheelers. They're not allowed in during the daytime. There's just a window right in the middle of the night where they're allowed to make their deliveries. And eventually they're going to cut that off entirely, and they're going to start limiting the access to, class 3 and class 4, to the smaller trucks as well. So this is going to be, this I think is going to be a real game changer for people as a delivery service, but also, other applications that you and I have talked about where, I live in a new construction neighborhood and they're still building houses here. So that means that the guys are bringing their tools in and out and in and out every day to make sure that the tools are safe. Whereas with one of these mobile hubs, they could basically have a little mobile tool shed that they could move from house to house. They wouldn't even need a truck to move it from house to house. They can
Yeah.
use the remote control.
Yeah, and the inventory, or like I told you, I was walking the streets in Philadelphia 2 weeks ago. With people working on, let's say, Verizon was working on a telephone connection, and the ground. The ground was open, so we could use that box. It was an open floor. It was open button, and it just put it off on it, and then they can work inside. And don't have to care about weather conditions and
Right?
all that
They'd be
stuff.
protected from the elements. The pedestrians around them would be protected from potentially falling into the hole that they're working in.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's a win-win
yeah.
for everybody there. It's a really good situation.
Yeah, but the main point, let's say, for larger cities is really what's going right, what's happening right now. Let's say larger trucks are, let's say, reaching the outskirts of the city. Then it comes, for example, trucks like our CF1, which go to let's say, the city centers. But the very close city centers, with tighter streets and roads and places and all that stuff. They don't want to have trucks driving anymore. So they need, let's say, the last meter delivery services by bicyclists, by pedestrians. But somehow you need to you need to store the packages and all that. And that is
Mhm.
that is why they need kind of a mobile hub system. And like I said before, it's going to be completely sustainable because you can service multiple hubs with just one vehicle.
Very cool, very cool, and very exciting. I'm sure, and I love that you've that was something that you guys had talked about, had planned on, when you had first conceived the company and first conceived the vehicles and everything, but you realized that you really needed to focus on that vehicle first. You have to have
Yeah,
the truck in order to deliver the hub, and I really like that. But I also love the fact that as you've been in more and more meetings and heard more and more interest about it, that you're going to devote some resources to that as well, so that you can address that customer demand. Like I
yeah.
said, you've always been very customer centric and customer focused, and I think that that's going to be a big part of your success.
Yeah, and we have envisioned from the very beginning that we never wanted to be just a vehicle manufacturer. The vehicle is the base for next developments. We wanted to create, let's say, intelligent solutions for logistics, and there's a lot of demand in that in the future. That means we want to be a one-stop source for our customers. So that means also that we are partnering with a charging infrastructure company, with an after sales service company, and things like this. So if there's any problem or requirement coming up from the customer, there's only one address to go. It's us. I had a meeting a couple of months ago with a larger vehicle operator, a fleet operator in Europe, postal service, and we were sitting at the table in a conference room for about 1.5 hours. And then within that 1.5 hours, he was telling me about his problems, his future problems, and all that stuff. And you can see already that there are 3, 4, 5, even more business cases, so which
Mhm.
need to be addressed. So I want to be first of all, I want to be his partner for solving those problems. But the other thing is you need to do it step by step, focus. Like we discussed many times, in the very beginning, we looked at our, let's say, not our, at some competitors, which wanted to do a drone, we wanted to do this, and another vehicle like this. You need to focus first, and step
Yep.
by step building it up. But you need to analyze the market. You need to analyze and update your vision. And like I stated before, it all turns right now into a direction that our cab chassis is something which can be standardized as a electrified chassis. So that's a different point. But you have to keep on your track. Vision is everything, nice, but you need to execute.
Definitely, and that's one of our I call them, our check boxes in our system. We look for that execution, and you really have to execute. And you're right. When you're trying to focus on too many things, you really end up not focusing on anything at all. And I think that's what happened to a lot of those companies, the de-SPAC transactions. The ones that went public, that they maybe had too broad of a focus. I'm trying to be generous here with them.
Yeah, but Jason, for us, it was kind of frustrating because you see, and we had this discussion many times internally. It's like how much money are they burning? And just a part of it, we could have used. We could have done a lot more stuff in the meantime. But
Oh,
still
so
time to
much, so
go,
much.
and we talked about this also last week, and I got recently also got an email from one of our supporters here on WeFunder, and in the end is the market is not saturated right now, and there's no actually, instead of except of a couple of vehicles, let's say, I think Rivian have built 5,000 vehicles for Amazon or so. You don't see commercial EVs right now on the roads. We're just
Yeah.
at the beginning. There's probably 0.001% right now delivered from what is really required by 2030, where a lot of regulations are banning diesels and combustion engine and vehicles. So there's still a lot of time. We're in a very infant stage right now in the market, and there's a lot of opportunities coming up.
No, that's
Yeah.
definitely a good point that needs to be made. Is that while the commuter EV market has evolved a lot since Tesla first went public back in 2010, the commercial EV market is still very much in its infancy. You see a good amount of Teslas driving around. Even me, I live out in West Virginia, in rural West Virginia, and I still see a bunch of Teslas every day. But I can't say that I've ever seen an electric delivery truck when I was living in Baltimore, when I was living out here. So we're definitely very much at the infancy here. And when you say 5,000 vehicles, that sort of 5,000 sounds like a lot when you're comparing
Yeah.
it to zero. But when
Yeah.
you're comparing it to the tens, hundreds of millions of commercial vehicles out there, it's not even a drop in the bucket.
So we are going to change that. That's a goal, right? So let's do that.
Definitely, definitely. I love that. And I've already taken so much of your time this weekend, even more than I've just taken today. So I don't want to take any more of it. But I just want to thank you again for all your time and for your dedication, and for this opportunity to participate in what I see as the future of commercial transportation.
Yeah, and last but not least, we need to talk about that current funding round. I think that we
Oh, we
should.
definitely don't want to forget that, right? Definitely
Yes.
don't want to forget that. Discounted always has a negative connotation, but because Michael and the City Freighter team feel, wanted to thank us, wanted to thank the Main Street Ventures community, wanted to thank the WeFunder community, wanted to thank its previous investors for helping it get this far. They're offering a discounted round for accredited investors before they do their next WeFunder Regulation CF campaign. It'll be at a discounted valuation. It'll be a similar agreement, a safe agreement to what we did last time. And I'll make sure that everybody in the Main Street Ventures community has access to it. And if you're an accredited investor, you'll have a really easy process of just going through, giving Michael your information, letting him know how much you'd like to invest. And then he and the team there will help you get through the rest of the investment process.
Yeah, we made it very easy. So we put up a landing page for that, an exclusive access to that landing page, and you will find more information about where we are right now at the moment. And also, there's a message from myself, and there's a video which tells you, where we're going, what the direction is, and it's an easy process. You just have to click. I would like to participate, and we get back with an agreement ready for review and for signing. And yeah, if you would consider to invest in the company, it would help us a lot right now. We are talking to possible lead investors as well for larger amounts, but we need to get things going and moving, and every dollar will help.
Every dollar will help, and this has definitely been a community process. Uh, you know, so
Yeah,
it's
Yeah, and I just want to just use that opportunity to thank the community for that, because in between also we are communicating with a lot of investors right now. They're helping us. They're giving us thoughts. They're giving us ideas how to move forward, and that's the beauty of the community. Because I always believe that as more people you have, as more different things you can develop, and you look into different directions. You always need somebody who's telling you, "Hey, Michael, that's probably not the right way to go. Let's go the other way," or so. And I really appreciate that that as we fund a culture right now, it's a community funding. Before it was called crowd investing. But and we can see that, and I'm also open to communication anytime. My email is michael@cityfreighter.com. Shoot me an email. I'm gonna respond within a short amount of time. I'm happy to communicate.
He will. He always does. He always emails me back, even when I think he might not want to.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, it's definitely been a community thing, and it's not just been a community fundraising thing. It's been a community idea generation thing too. So like you've said so many times, partnerships are so important, and these investors are also sort of partners, and everybody has their own expertise, and it's definitely been a really exciting and interesting process watching everybody reach out and share their expertise with you, and I really appreciate the opportunity to participate in it. And I think I speak for the Main Street Ventures investors when I say that they participate the opportunity too. So thank you very much again, Michael, for the opportunity. Thank you for your time this weekend. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, and I wish you the best of luck. I'm here, and the community's here to help you along the way.
yeah. Thank you very much for supporting us here, Jason. Thank you very much for everybody. At least I can say right now that I got a couple of video interviews last weekend, so I can tell people without lying that probably the business demand is great here. So I appreciate that.
Well, the businessman must be great. This has to be what, your third, fourth interview this weekend.
Yes, correct. Absolutely.
Well,
Thank you very
thank
much.
you again, Michael. Everybody, thank you for tuning in and watching. Well, I'll put a link below the video to get you to the landing page, so that
Perfect.
if you're interested in investing, you can go ahead and get Michael your commitments. So, Michael, thanks again. Everybody else, thank you. Take care. Have a great week.
Thank you.